so conversational application on top of data, as being one of the most attractive areas to build AI product. The only difference is that AI right now is primarily using public web data. I think there was this big push to get conversational interfaces on internal data and documents, right? So you as a business want to make it easier for your people, your employees, as well as your clients to interact with the data that is very much owned by that company, right? So your own documents, your own databases, or the company's data and documents, that's going to be really critical. That's going to be one big pillar. The other big pillar is basically creating automation for work that humans are doing, right? So think about all of our jobs on a daily basis. A lot of what we do can be automated away because it's so repetitive.
Ankur Patel is an AI ML founder, startup advisor, author, and a speaker. He is currently the founder and CEO of Multimodal, a technology company that is designing and developing generative AI to automate manual workflows for businesses. And previously, Ankur was the co-founder and head of ML at Glean AI. Ankur was the VP of Data Science in 7Party Data, which was acquired by Vista Equity Partners. It's an amazing background, and I'm really glad to see you here. So I would be happy to hear your story. How do you get there?
This is actually my third startup, Multimodal, less than a year old. But I think for me, growing up, I always wanted to go and do things that were entrepreneurial. So just a very quick rundown. I started my career at a big bank, JP Morgan, here in New York City. This was just coming out of the 2008, 2009 crisis. It just felt too large of an organization for me. JP Morgan obviously had a great reputation. It was one of the strongest banks coming out of the crisis, but it just felt like I was too small of a much larger piece. And I quickly left that to do something that felt a little bit smaller, more startup-like. So I ended up joining Bridgewater as a trader. Now, Bridgewater also had a very successful run coming out of 2008, 2009. It's the world's largest hedge fund. About 800 people when I was there. Had a great 2 years. Loved Bridgewater and the culture. Really shaped me early on in my career. But I think I knew at that juncture that I really wanted to do something that's 0 to 1, very entrepreneurial. I was 24 when I left Bridgewater and then did my own startup. It was also a hedge fund, did that for 5 years. And then by the time I was done with that, I was in my late 20s. We didn't quite get enough scale with that business as an early stage startup. So it was a failure, but learned a whole lot and really got into machine learning as a result. And then went off to basically work on early stage startups, but startups that had been around for a while. Joined a Series B startup in New York City that was based in Israel. So it was a cybersecurity startup. Then went to join an alternative data startup as the head of machine learning. We ended up selling that to Vista Equity Partners. So between my first startup and then my second startup, Glean AI, which I started in 2019, I did basically early stage startup work, but running ML teams, really understood what it took to build out a team, to really scale organizations. And then I was ready to do my second startup, Glean AI. And I did that from late 2019 all the way up through earlier this year, and had a phenomenal run, had some great successes, setbacks, of course, which I can get into as well. But then this is my third startup, Multimodal. And of all the startups I've done to date, this has been the most successful. It's definitely grown the fastest in the shortest amount of time. But it's built on top of all the deeply meaningful experiences I've had from my first two startups and all of the startup experiences in between that.
And what about the previous startup? Have you sold it, or are you still like a managing director, or what's happening with the Glean currently?
So Glean AI, I left that startup. I'm still an equity holder, still a co-founder, but no longer operationally involved. That startup, fortunately, had two really great co-founders as well. And one of the co-founders is now focused on scaling that business. I ran the machine learning team. We built out the machine learning for that over 2020 and 2021. So over the first 24 months or so, we had a really good ML engine that took invoices as input, extracted all of that information out, mapped it to a clean set of data, mapped to taxonomy. You could provide vendor spend with benchmarking, with analytics to a CFO so they could see their spend over time and understand how their spend compared to peers. We built out that engine over two years, And then 2022 and onwards, it was really mostly a story of go-to-market. So for me, I felt like my journey was done. I wasn't the CEO. I was running the machine learning side. That journey was over. At this point, that startup is still around. It's about to do its Series A. But that space is also super competitive. I mean, we were in the vendor spend space. And if you look at vendor spend management solutions, you look at fintech in general, especially from New York City, there's some really great companies like Brex and Ramp and Airbase that are much, much larger. And so we're a smaller player in that larger space, still have amazing opportunities to grow the business. It's a go-to-market story that I think my co-founder is really well suited for. And I wanted to tackle more deep ML, deep AI problems, which we're now doing at Multimodal.
I wanted to ask one question about your co-founders. So how did you find these people? Because I think it's one of the very important parts. It's like building a family. That is so important to find the right partners to build it with them. So how do you choose them? What was the process?
Yeah. So with Glean AI, I actually met my co-founder, who's now the CEO of Glean, through a mutual friend, Cliff Lerner. Cliff and I became friends in 2018, traveling together. He's also a longtime startup founder, so I deeply trust his intuition and his relationships. And I had drinks with Cliff, my friend, and then Cliff's college roommate, Howard. And Howard and I started chatting over drinks, and we realized that there was a great match here because Howard was a longtime CFO. He took On Deck Public. He was a CFO of Better Mortgage, so had a tremendous background as a CFO. And he wanted to change the vendor spend management space, but he wanted to do that during AI. He wanted to use AI. And I was the perfect match for that because I realized I could bring AI, solve this problem. And if you're saying that AI will unlock value for this audience, like we have the missing pieces, we put them together, we can do something really traumatic here. So Howard and I riffed pretty quickly. It was like playing jazz, right? We really got one another. And then we started working together and then brought on a head of product, another co-founder who had done early stage startup work as well, managing data as a product. Because I had the ML background, Howard has the CFO background, and then Gia, our third co-founder, became the head of product who saw data as a product, right? So it was a perfect match between product, ML, and CFO. And so we built that CFO software. But it was really because of Cliff, my good friend, that we had that initial connection.
It's very interesting. And I think it's also a very important part that all of you was covering different parts of the business and you completely different people. So I've seen several times when the people founders are trying to find the same look-alike person, which is, I think, is a big mistake. So what do you think about it?
I completely agree. Absolutely agree. You need to have complementary skill sets in the early founding team, as well as the early people you bring on to the team, the fourth, fifth, sixth hire that you have. It's so important that you have complementary skill sets that when you pair them together, they round out the experience that you need. Because to start a really great startup, you need great product, you need great engineering. Nowadays, you also need great machine learning. You need sales, you need marketing, you need someone that has really good operations background. And then someone that also has a good sense for numbers, right? Like the finance side of things, managing, especially this environment where venture capital funding is hard to get, you need to manage the budget. You need to manage your burn, right? That skill set, all those skill sets, it's typically not found in a single individual. It takes a series of individuals to really round that out. And the co-founders need to be able to own their respective lanes. So you have a person that owns product, a person that owns the finance department, or as a CEO, a person that just owns the engineering or the ML. And when you bring those pieces together, if they work well, then you have a really well-rounded team that can then go play ball.
And what about the current project, Multimodal? I think you just hit the ceiling, so you built everything. You was interested in going further. So how did you find this idea? Can you tell a bit more about the basis, how it's actually started?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. So I've been in the NLP space a long time now, since about 2014, 2015, starting with my hedge fund, then moving to startups. And I've written books. My first book came out in 2019. My last book, the second book, came out in 21. And the book was titled Applied NLP in the Enterprise. I also have a newsletter on Substack called Ankur's Newsletter, where I talk about NLP trends and how they can be used in business. So for a long time, I've been observing the space, like how are these new models going to help out businesses? And it felt very niche. Like NLP AI felt very niche 5 years ago, right? Like certain companies were using it. They were AI startups, I think what I realized covering the space through all the writing and the analysis that I was doing is that there was going to be an inflection point where the technology became mainstream, where you could apply it to a large swath of problems, and businesses would overnight, in some ways, move to being AI first businesses. It's like being a pre-internet and then a post-internet company, right? So companies, when they first started out during the internet age, they were known as internet companies. Now, no company, even if they're on the internet, isn't called an internet company. All companies are internet companies, right? AI is the same thing where there are AI companies, and then soon they'll just be companies because AI will be in every single company that exists. I think for me personally, with multimodal, I saw that inflection point with OpenAI, with the large language models. So even before ChatGPT came out, I didn't know how successful it was going to be, but it was clear that large language models were going to change the nature of AI because you needed dramatically less data to get really incredible performance using AI. In the past, you used to have to annotate thousands and thousands of examples to get a good AI model built. It would take you 6 months, right? It took us basically 24 months at Glean to build out the full AI engine. Now we can build that in a much shorter amount of time because of the technology that's available, right? And so because we saw this technology, because I saw it last year, it became apparent that this was going to be a catalyst for changing businesses to AI businesses, and we needed to go and be part of that story. So we started Multimodal with the core premise of helping businesses automate the work that they do so that they become AI first businesses. Multimodal is like an invisible layer. Most companies that use us, their customers never know that multimodal is even involved because we're that invisible layer that sits within a company that helps automate what they do using AI. And we're transforming a business into an AI first business without anyone even knowing that we're involved, right? It's that invisible layer. So I saw that opportunity, founded it, did not expect the rapid growth that we've seen to date. So I actually don't have co-founders because I didn't have time to search for a co-founder. We immediately just hit it off. And now we're building out the leadership team. But yeah, it grew pretty quickly, and we're 30 people in less than a year.
Wow. And what do you think? How long will it take that AI will be integrated in all businesses? Especially, I'm curious about like brick and mortar, e-commerce, big stores, because these guys are trying to avoid it as much as possible, but it's unavoidable for sure. But how long? What do you think? How long will it take?
I think we have two good proxies to draw upon. One is the internet. Like, how long did it take for the internet? Let's say around 96. How long did it take for adoption there? The other one
10 years. Around 10 years, as far as I remember.
I think that's right. I think it's around 10 years, right? I think with mobile apps and the use of mobile, I think it's similar, right? So iPhone came out in 2007, and then it basically, at what point did businesses start using some sort of mobile app or SMS to do business, right, and do mobile ads and such? It probably didn't take quite as long, like not 10 years, but it took some time, certainly. I think with AI, it's the same thing. Like, I think if you think of 2022 as being 1996, right? 97, 98, 99, 2000 were boom years for internet companies. I think the next couple of years are going to be boom years for AI companies. I think there will be setbacks. I think there'll be failures. I think there will be things that are overhyped, overpromised that we don't realize. At the same time, I think I'm very bullish on where we will be 7 to 10 years from now, right? Where most businesses, they will either use AI software from other vendors, so they're basically bootstrapping their way to becoming AI businesses, or they will have people internally that are helping them build AI for the different things that they do. And AI is like such a, I guess, basket term. But when I think of AI in a business, it's not one AI. It's a dozen different types of AI, maybe more, in different areas of the business that is creating great levels of productivity and efficiency, doing the work that humans were solely doing in the past. AI is being able to do more of that heavy lifting, right? So it's going to take some time. Like, we're here for a very long game, 7 to 10 years or more. And I think we're still in the very early innings, right? Very early days. And so we want to go and build a really good, sustainable, long-term company here.
Wow. It's really interesting. And which applications in terms of the businesses are like at the first tier, second tier, third tier? So what would be the first? What do you think?
I think a couple of things. I think one, clearly people love conversational interfaces, right? So if you look at ChatGPT, the most successful AI application ever, it's about having a chat-like experiences with an AI, right? So asking questions, retrieving answers. we're seeing that application, so conversational application on top of data, as being one of the most attractive areas to build AI product. The only difference is that AI right now is primarily using public web data. I think there is this big push to get conversational interfaces on internal data and documents, right? So you as a business want to make it easier for your people, your employees, as well as your clients to interact with the data that is very much owned by that company, right? So your own documents, your own databases, or the company's data and documents, that's going to be really critical. That's going to be one big pillar. The other big pillar is basically creating automation for work that humans are doing, right? So think about all of our jobs on a daily basis. A lot of what we do can be automated away because it's so repetitive, right? So if you look at a sales and marketing function, it's pulling information on leads, reaching out to them on LinkedIn or email, crafting emails, crafting blog posts, crafting some messaging, right? Preparing a proposal. There's repetition. A model can learn what activity you're taking and go and automate that for you. This is even truer in highly regulated industries like healthcare or finance, where you have teams and teams of people doing know your customer, know your business, some sort of compliance workflow, some sort of claims processing. All of that is going to change in the next couple of years, where AI is going to be doing the bulk of that work. So you have lots of straight through processing. And then humans are still going to be involved in some capacity, but they're going to deal with the very difficult edge cases, right? So they do manual review for the ones that need manual review, but the bulk of the activity, 80, 90% or more, is done via AI. So we think that internal efficiency, workflow automation is going to be really big too. And the great thing about that is that you're not dreaming up of where the value can be. You're just replacing more of what people are doing with AI, right? So you're automatically creating value for a business. I think there are going to be so many AI applications that you or I or anyone else can't even dream of, right? And think of. Think about when mobile devices came out. The mobile apps that were built on those mobile devices, we didn't know that at the time. Like, people wouldn't have dreamt of Uber or Airbnb in a mobile device when the iPhone first came out. Clearly, there were great ways to engage with it. Instagram, TikTok, none of that would have been really possible without mobile apps.
True. I couldn't even imagine what would be. We live in such an amazing time. I want to ask you about the obstacles, about the problems you faced in both of your recent startups. So probably 2, 3 biggest obstacles, problems you faced, and how you handle that.
Yeah, I think those are great questions. I think in some ways, startups are all about problem solving and overcoming obstacles. From the outsider's perspective, it may feel like things are easy and move along, especially if you're successful in some capacity. But I think with Glean AI, there are a couple of major struggles. I think for us initially, we had to go build the technology, which was hard to build. Processing invoices, taking values out of those invoices, really hard, really big struggle. We could not build AI from day one, right? It took, because AI, if you look at 2019, you needed lots of documents and you needed to annotate thousands and thousands of documents. So we did what most AI companies do when they first start out, which is they have humans. So AI company hires humans do the work. And then once you understand what the flow is of activity that humans are doing, and you have enough data that you can use to build a model, then you can start building AI. So it's the chicken or the egg problem. We had to get started somewhere. We had to raise money to hire humans to do invoice processing, to surface analytics, and then eventually we were able to upgrade that with AI. That was our first major challenge. The second big challenge was accounts payable is an age-old space. Bill.com has over 50% market share. There are many other companies that came up around that time too, particularly Ramp and Brex, right? So 2 companies that have virtual credit cards. They started to dominate the space. Now they're multi-billion-dollar companies. It became hard for us because we were doing invoices, so not virtual cards, and virtual cards were all the rage. And invoices were also now very popular among venture-backed startups. So 2020, 2021, 2022, VCs, venture-backed startups, they were the ones that were really popular, and most of their spend was card spend. So we were a small player that remained fairly small, whereas Brex and Ramp really grew into much larger businesses. So it became much harder for us to get market distribution, right? Because Ramp and Brex, they were developing bill pay capabilities too. So Glean had to find better distribution over time. So sales and marketing was really hard. The other thing that you may notice is that when we built the founding team, we had someone that knew product, someone that knew finance, someone that knew ML. but we didn't have a really great sales and marketing leader, right? So that was really hard. That was the missing link. And for us, that was a huge struggle for a long time to find the right people in sales and marketing to help us get distribution. And so that was, I think, the biggest hurdle that we faced. And we faced that after the product was built. So in 2022, really hard time getting good distribution. I think now the company is doing better at getting more sales and has a better marketing engine, but it took 3-4 years for us to get that in place, right? Because we didn't have that as part of our DNA. For me, that was a really learning exercise. It took a lot of time for me to understand how to do that well. Then we're applying the lessons to multimodal. But yeah, I think building an AI product with no data was the first major challenge. And then the go-to-market was the second major challenge for Glean AI.
So in the next projects and the next startups, what will you do differently? So will you find another co-founder with the marketing capabilities, or how will you try to avoid this? I'm just curious.
Yeah, so multimodal is a great story in the sense that what I learned from deep, painful experiences at Glean AI and tried to change things at multimodal. So for us, it became very important at multimodal because of the VC environment too. Like obviously venture capital funding is harder, right? So with Glean AI, we actually raised a seed round pre-product, pre-revenue. We just had a pitch deck and there were 3 founders.
Which is currently unbelievable.
It likely wouldn't happen now, right? It's much harder. So basically with multimodal, like I didn't really care too much about raising venture capital funding because it probably would have been somewhat easier because now this is my 3rd startup. So usually you have an easier time if you've been a founder before and you have some relationships. But what I wanted to do was emphasize revenue growth, right? So with multimodal, we focused on getting in front of customers with really good marketing and sales from day one. Because we didn't want to build something in isolation for 2 years and then go to market and then see if people were interested in it. There was like too slow a feedback loop when that happens because you're building basically in a cave for 2 years. Then you come out of the cave and you hope that it's what people want. Unless you're Steve Jobs, which by the way, Steve Jobs, I think also developed a great intuition from lots of great experiences. He also had painful experiences that people forget, right? Getting ousted from Apple, doing Next, which wasn't a critical success, coming to Apple, several decades of experience, and then people are like, wow, he really knows what the market wants. Yeah, because it took some time to develop that intuition. So I think unless you're a Steve Jobs, it's hard to build in isolation. It's hard to anticipate what people want. So what we wanted to do was get customers from day one. And so what we did was we reduced the barriers for our company by saying, we're going to just focus on building out APIs, not build a web app, not build anything that was like conventional software, build AI, ML APIs that really create automation in workplaces, because that's what we thought was, and we think is still the big story that's going to play out over 5, 10, 15 years. And we built these APIs, we sold them to companies in a way where when they used our APIs, they were getting an immediate ROI from using them, because whatever they were doing, the complex workflow that they had in finance or healthcare took them considerably longer and cost a lot more to do with people versus using our APIs, right? So our APIs immediately delivered an ROI. We captured some of that return on investment or some of that revenue that was created, the value that was created. So we won, our customers won, we started getting revenue, and then we're now fueling that back into the marketing side. I think our biggest challenge is there's so much AI out there. So many companies that say they do AI. You look on social, there's so much AI. So for us, we're a deeply technical shop. We have engineering, and most of the team is ML engineers and ML ops engineers, but you still need to play the marketing game. And when everyone's saying that they're an AI company too, it's hard for us to stand apart as well. And so we're trying to still figure out how to market really well in this space that's becoming crowded in terms of messaging. That's still our biggest challenge. But I think the difference from Glean AI to this is we know that sales and marketing is going to be really hard. We know product, we know technical, like that's not an issue. Those things are checked off because I'm a technical founder. But sales and marketing is where I'm trying to invest more of my attention to, and we're trying to hire a leadership team that also really knows how to do that well.
Very interesting. I have read recently interesting report by Sequoia Capital. They was researching the AI sphere, and what they found out that the retention rate of AI applications like 20% less than the regular applications. Now, of course, I'm talking about B2C segment. Mm-hmm. And if you will look on monthly active users, it's even worse. it's like around 20% of monthly active users. So it seems that people are just playing with it and not yet using it regularly. And here is the question. I think you went to the B2B, and personally, I think it's super wise decision, because currently people are playing with B2C and so many products there, like 90% or 99% are completely crap. It's not working. Why do you choose the B2B? How do you find this niche? So what was the base behind it?
Yeah, I think a couple of things to that, and I'll get to the B2C and the stickiness there. I think B2B, and if you look at my career, started in finance or joined a hedge fund. With hedge funds, I both at Bridgewater and then my own hedge fund that I started, we're selling to endowments and pension funds, right? So it's almost like a B2B relationship because it's like enterprise sales, right? Then I joined an Israeli startup selling into tier one insurance companies and banks. So again, B2B. And then alt data firm sold into hedge funds, so B2B. And Glean AI, B2B, right? So I have no B2C experience. So in a way, like there was no way I was going to do a B2C. I don't understand consumer startups quite as well. I don't understand like the motion and the product. I think it's a little bit harder for me just because I've spent 15 years basically building out B2B. But there's more to it, I think, than that. So B2C, I think when I look at the B2C landscape and the AI startup space, it's very superficial AI. It's basically companies that are mostly wrappers around OpenAI models. And OpenAI, they're a really great company. I love OpenAI. But in many ways, OpenAI's defensibility has also gotten weaker because you see some great models, obviously because of like Meta releasing Llama 2 and then open source community building on top of it. Of course, you have Anthropic, AI 21 Labs, Cohere, Butte. There's so many other players that are in the mix. But I'm just going to call it B2C companies are building mostly wrapper AI products around like an OpenAI offering, which means that their AI is really not that different or specialized versus any other B2C player. Now, they can still get stickiness if they have a beautiful user experience. They ultimately build out better AI, like of their own, like homegrown AI. There are many ways they can make and develop stickiness. But right now, a lot of them are very simple. If you look at writing companies, Writer.com, Jasper, ChatGPT, Copy.ai, they're all kind of doing the same thing, right? They're not like, one's not 10x better than the next, right? So it makes sense that people are just jumping from one to another. We are operating a little differently. So we do B2B, but we also sell to companies where they have very complex, hard workflows, right? So when we sell into companies, we're trying to tackle something that's super complex, super hard, things that people wouldn't even touch necessarily, because you actually need to work with the customer to understand their flow, understand how people are basically doing the work that they're doing. And then we design all around their existing workflow. We create automation there. So when we get into a company, we spend extra time up front learning what we can automate. We automate it for them. And then we develop stickiness because we automated something that was super complex. So it's so much harder once we get in for another company to come in and replace us, because they would also have to do all of this complex engineering to get in the first place. So for us, we almost think like we're becoming part of the fabric, part of the infrastructure into a company. And once you're part of that infrastructure, particularly if you have great fit and finish, like you're like really primed to their way of doing business, really going to be hard for another company to come in and displace you. Also, it is an operational risk at some point, because when we sell into businesses, we're doing this well. Why would they choose to even think about replacing us? Again, if the cost is right, if it works, right? Like people aren't going to really switch. And you see that stickiness in B2B that you don't in B2C, right? So we love this. We think that once we get into companies, because we deliver so much value, we have the fit and finish, we could be there for years, 10 years, 15 years, right? That's at least our vision today.
Absolutely. Actually, we found it the same. Basically, you're doing a customized solution. So it's also much hard for competitors to repeat it, because you're jumping in, you learn the processes, you build it from the scratch. And if the company already using it, it definitely doesn't make any sense to move to other companies. So yeah, in terms of retention, it's like 100%. And even more, based on our current startup, I see that we're growing with them. So I think it will be the same with you. So they will implement it more and more in different processes, in different departments, in different spheres, even within one corporation or one business. So that's huge potential.
That's right. Yeah, net retention is likely going to be over 100% because as the company grows, they're basically consuming more of the AI, and a lot of our contracts are usage based. So the more usage there is, the we get paid. And so if a company's growing over time, we're getting paid also more over time, right? Because we're adding more value, we're capturing some of the value that we're creating over time. So it's very, very aligned. The other thing is that, I think we do certainly do custom work for our clients because we try to understand their workflow and build around it. But the beauty of what we do is that a lot of our work with customers, it's similar, right? Like you're using a certain set of large language models, you're doing a certain amount of pre-training or fine-tuning, you have certain OCR engines that you're deploying, you have certain ways of connecting into different databases like vector databases, you set up custom agents using LangChain, let's say a certain way. There's a lot of like similar threads across one client to another client. So I would say like 80% of it is pretty standardized. It's internal product that we have that we've built. And then the 20%, the fit and finish, really understanding the workflow of a customer, we customize that. So there is a good degree of customization, which allows us to really get into an org without having them do any of the heavy lifting. So you are right that the custom engineering keeps us there for longer, and we're happy to do it because of that. At the same time, we're creating greater efficiency by building internal products so that maybe in a couple of years from now, only 10% is custom because we've already done a great job of building out really good templatized internal products. And there is a version of what we do that can also become self-serve. So we have designs on that as well. So some of our work may involve some custom work, like the 10% that I mentioned or 20% that I mentioned, but some could be purely self-serve. And because we have such a good reputation of doing for very large enterprises that have complex workflows, there are companies that will come to us to try our self-serve product and then use it directly there.
Mm-hmm. What, if it is possible, of course, to disclose, what is your strategy in the middle term? What do you plan to focus on in terms of product development, in terms of probably niche?
Yeah, no, I can share some of the information here. So we work on very hard, complex workflows. That's what we're trying to automate, particularly in highly regulated industries. So we love finance and healthcare. So we're largely focusing on finance first and foremost, but healthcare too, as well as technology companies like health tech and fintech, right? So those are great because they're selling into that audience. And we focus on a couple of things. One, document AI is huge for us. So classifying documents, extracting information from documents, particularly around like compliance or some claims processing or KYB, KYC, right? Like standard onboarding processes. We love those. That's like our first big product that we get into companies with, document AI. The second one is workflow AI. So this is basically you have a set of documents, maybe some of the data is in databases, and you're making decisions. So I'll give you an example. When you do underwriting, like a mortgage application, you need to identify their identity, you need to verify their income, then based on their income and identity, you need to figure out what credit rate to apply. So what is the interest rate to apply, right? And so you need to go and find different lenders, figure out what rates they're offering and offer them a competitive rate. That process involves querying documents, which we do with Document AI. It involves querying databases and then making a decision, a determination. That's our workflow AI product. It's basically doing what a knowledge worker would do, what a loan officer would do, right? So that's another huge area for us that we work on. And then the last one is what we call product AI, which is providing internal teams, typically internal teams, but it could be also end users, a way to access information that's stored in internal documents and databases. So this is that AI product that I mentioned earlier, but our version is facing the internal data that a company has. So you could ask a question like, for example, what is the coverage rate for this, for my policy, for my insurance policy? Our AI basically queries the database, finds your policy, finds the coverage limit, and then responds to you in text. So it's an application where you take a text query from a user, converts it to code, finds it in the database. So think of this as like a series of SQL statements, retrieves the answer, and then conveys it back in text. So again, it's creating efficiency because it allows you to get information faster than you having to get a data analyst and then find where that data lives in that table.
I see so many applications even in our startup. Wow, it sounds incredible. I would like to shift a bit in the space of like, how do you see the future of AI? So we are currently in 2023, in the middle, actually in the fourth quarter. We almost in 2024, to be honest. So how do you see how the landscape, AI landscape, will evolve with 2, 3, 5 years? I mean, both B2C, B2B spheres, so maybe something interesting would be happening. So what do you think?
I think a couple of things. One, I think we're going to see like more and more companies that build these large language model APIs, like OpenAI and others. I think there's a lot of investment. I think there's going to be a lot of companies that continue to be competitive in that space, that continue to build on that space. And I think that's good. It's going to be fierce competition, but it's going to push us into the realm of multimodal large language models, right? Ones that can handle images, maybe handle video, not just text. And then that means that these models are going to be incredibly capable of working with image and video data, similar to how they work with text data, which unlocks more capacity in terms of what we can do with the models, because a lot of our interaction with the real world is with videos and images as well, right? Particularly in the consumer world. So I think you'll see a lot more competition. I think eventually there will be consolidation because there'll be disappointment. There can't be multiple open AIs, right? I think the market doesn't support that. So maybe OpenAI wins, or maybe OpenAI plus someone else wins, or maybe the OpenAI gets beat by someone else. Right now, that looks unlikely, but I think that's going to happen on the large language model side. I think we'll see a huge proliferation of infrastructure companies that really build specialized hardware, both physical hardware, like on device, like on your phone, for example, also AR, VR headsets that incorporate AI, but then also cloud data centers and cloud GPU and access to just really AI-focused hardware, right? I think right now you're seeing tremendous investment in that space. That space is going to dramatically increase in terms of what it's capable of doing. I think the other big area is that, and we'll see this with Apple's AR, VR headset, right? The one that comes out next year. You're going to see AI overlaid in a completely different device beyond the phone. So think of an earpiece you're able to have really great conversations, retrieve answers, book appointments, check your calendar, respond to emails, because it understands what you're trying to do. It understands intent, and it routes the flow that you want directly. So I think you're going to see a lot of like audio first devices that are so much better than what we know them today. I think when we look at it, like a Siri, Alexa, Google Home, as we know it today, are going to seem incredibly dumb, because there's just going to be better and better versions of it, to the point where it's like, I can't believe we were using that. So I think AR, VR headsets, audio devices, much more interaction with AI in all these consumer formats. I think that's going to be really big. I think on the B2B side, it's every single company is going to have to adopt AI. I think they're going to be early adopters. And then eventually every single company, because of competitive pressure, is going to adopt it. Now, some of them will build in-house. A lot of them will turn to external vendors, right? Same thing happened with the internet age. People turned to the internet, had to find the right software player and partners to go upgrade their business. And so I think that's what we're going to face. If I look at the global economy, we're going to be in a recession at some point in the next couple of years, maybe next year even. That usually is a catalyst for new technologies, particularly in the B2B space, because technology helps improve margins, right? Unfortunately, that's the way it works. And then so coming out of the recession, you have more AI-enabled businesses, because AI becomes a way to improve margins in an environment where you have fewer sales and you have more price pressures, right? So I think there's going to be massive disruption in the B2B space. I'm most excited like with multimodal and B2B because we do B2B, of course, but I'm also super excited by B2C because I think there's going to be beautiful AI experiences from different types of devices that come online in the next couple of years.
Sounds incredible. Thank you very much for sharing. If we talk about the business in general, and like the person who would like to start their own business in the field of AI, what advice would you give them where they would look to find a niche, where they should be focused on? So first, initial steps.
My biggest recommendation, particularly if you're technical, and this doesn't work for everyone, but for technical founders, is to go and build a prototype of what you think could be valuable, and then just start getting that in front of other people, right? Because you may be super enthused by the idea, and it's good to be opinionated, it's good to have a hypothesis, but you do need feedback from other people pretty early on to make sure that you're onto something that could be bigger, right? Of course, not everyone's feedback is equally valuable. So you need to figure out what audience is this likely going to be valuable for, and then find people in that audience and then go directly to them. And if you're getting the feedback that you think that you would expect given the product that you're building, then you're off to the races. If you're getting feedback like maybe there are some hurdles, like there's a better product or a better product, or maybe that there's just like too much rigidity and friction to get this product off the ground. From a consumer perspective, like the user perspective, then you go rethink your strategy, right? My recommendation is not to try to raise like from day one, right? Raising money is an enabler, but you shouldn't let that be like a constraint or blocker. You can start building AI using pretty cheap hardware that's available, the knowledge of how to do AI while it's publicly available, so you can keep going. I would say if you're a non-technical founder, my recommendation is you can build off of OpenAI or something similar, right? Especially if you feel like the thing that you bring to market is not necessarily deep tech, but it's the ability to market the product or the ability to create great user experience with AI. Go and build using something that's off the shelf like OpenAI, even though you may have plans to go and build your own large language model to go and serve that use case to make it more domain performant, right? But right now, you can build really great things using OpenAI, even if you're not overly technical yourself, right? Or you could find people that are technical to pair with. That's the other thing I would recommend for non-technical founders. But I think the general premise is don't raise money. Like you don't need to raise money from day one. Go get something off the ground, get some traction. That will open up conversations with VCs if you're interested in raising, right? You will not be able to raise in this environment without a good early product that has either revenue or aligned to revenue in the near future.
Absolutely. Right now, it's really hard to raise anything without the traction. So just an idea right now is not working at all. I think in all spheres. Okay, thank you very much. I would like to talk with you about one very important part of entrepreneur journey, the burning out, how to handle the problems, how to handle the distractions, how to keep on being motivated no matter what. Can you share your approach? So how do you keep on going no matter what?
So I think life is full of imbalances, right? There's no perfect balance. I think if you're doing a startup, you're going to experience tremendous imbalance, especially in the early years where you're sacrificing time at the gym or time socially, vacation time, like just leisure time to go build what you need to go build. I think that will likely lead to burnout unless you're aware of it. And even if you're aware of it, it could still lead to burnout, right? That's going to be a possibility. So the question is, how do you limit the odds of burnout if you do get burnt out, and how do you quickly resolve it? My biggest thing is that, and this is true of like great people, great thinkers like Einstein, where they would do things in bursts of intensity, like very intense activity, followed by deep relaxation, right? It's also when you go work out, high intensity interval training is really great because you work out super hard, your body's super stressed, but you're forced to develop your muscles from that intensity, but then you pair it with relaxation, with the rest, right? Working in a professional capacity, the same thing. You have intense bursts. So my weeks are crazy, my days are crazy, there's tons of things happening, fires burning everywhere, trying to figure out which fires to pay attention to. But I try to pair that with good downtime. For me, that's working out, spending time with family, spending time with friends to the extent that I can. Again, it's not going to be a whole lot of time right now. And then also meditation is great because it helps you get like a quick digital detox where you have no devices, just your thoughts. You're not like tuning out to a television show or a movie. You're just in your headspace, but it helps calm the body. It has a physical response and a mental response. That really helps. I think taking vacations also helps, right? It's hard to say, I'm going to take a couple of days, but you tend to think clearer and you're more productive and you're less prone to burnout if you give yourself a couple of those throughout the year. I think otherwise you can't be in this race for many years. I've been doing startups for a long time. The only reason I'm able to is because I've got intense relaxation periods in along the way. Otherwise, I would have been burnt out by year 3, right? So you can't always be at it. You can't always be hustling. You can't always be grinding, right? I think it's impractical advice for humans.
Absolutely. Do you use some particular techniques or maybe applications for meditation, for relaxation?
So I'm big on Transcendental meditation, TM, right? It's actually what I learned also during my early days at Bridgewater. I started there in 2010. So this was before meditation became super hot, where you saw meditation apps, before it became like a mainstream topic. It was more niche at the time when I started it. Transcendental meditation involves having like a simple mantra, so simple phrase, doesn't have to even mean anything, but helps you basically repeat the phrase over and over again to a point where your mind is just concentrated on that mantra. and your breathing is also concentrated on that mantra, right? So you're breathing in deeply, you're exhaling as well. You're giving your body the chance to just relax because you focused your attention on just that one mantra. And then by doing that, you don't need any devices. You don't need guidance in your ear, no apps. You're able to just do it at any point, anytime, no matter where you are in the world. You could do it on an airplane, busy bus, do it before bed, in the morning. Like, you don't need any other accompaniments. I think for people that are starting out, I think apps do help because I think they are very good at getting you to learn techniques that if you practice, again, you have to practice. Like they say, like you need 20 days of doing a habit pretty routinely in order to let it stick. I think your physical anatomy, like your mental brain, the capacity changes when you meditate. So over time, you develop that muscle where you could tap into it when you're stressed. But you can't wait to be stressed to start meditating. Because when your body is stressed, you're not likely to learn new techniques. So you got to do it today when you're not as stressed, so that when you are stressed, you could tap into that energy.
That is a great advice. I will write it down and put it in as a separate line. Just do it in advance, not when you're already stressed. Prepare yourself in advance. That is very good. Which AI tools do you use in your personal life and in your business? So maybe some applications, some tools.
So I think personally, I love Notion's version of AI. I'm a big Notion fan. I like storing all of my thoughts, all of my notes in Notion, being able to search against. So I've been using it for a couple of years, both professionally and personally. And I like their AI feature because it allows me to craft in the same workspace, right? So I'm able to craft, have AI generations in the same workspace as Notion, that where I store all my information. So personally, I'm a huge fan of that. I think professionally, I love leaving Looms, so like video recording, where they transcribe the recording that you've done. It has an outline, has a description. That way, in an async manner, I can share with my colleagues, right? Because we have a global team. I don't have a lot of spare time to book meetings. So when I have 5 minutes or 10 minutes to say something to a particular team, I'm able to just record a Loom, explain my thoughts, and then Loom transcribes it, creates some good outline, and then I can share that, right? It's something that can be shared over time to multiple people that need access to it. So Loom has been a great productivity for at Multimodal.
Interesting. I have never heard about it, that the people are using Loom for transcription. Very interesting. Thank you very much for sharing. I will test it because I didn't know that. Okay, I would like to start with the questions. What is the book or books you given most of the gift and why?
I'm a big fan of Hemingway. I love his writing. I think a lot of people take life a bit too seriously, particularly in the startup world. Founders, I also love reading biographies, right? Like really big. I think you can learn a lot from other founders, other entrepreneurs. But I think all of us get hit with that advice. Go read biographies, go read business books, go read this and that. And you could optimize your life like crazy, right? But I think it's really important to read good fiction because it gives you a complete 180 to what you typically do. You're very analytical. You're working all the time in business. I think reading Hemingway, where you're taken away to another place, another time, it helps you basically relax a little bit more, right? And take life less seriously. Particularly a book like Movable Feet, where it's in Paris in the 1920s. Hemingway's there, basically reading and writing and just enjoying life. It's a really, really great place to be. Yes, that's one of my favorites.
I just wrote it down, so thank you very much. Next one. What purchase of $100 or less has most positively impacted your life in the last 6 months or in recent memory?
This sounds silly, but it's just a plain journal with a good pen. Because I used to take a lot of notes. I still love Notion. Like I said, I love Notion. But when I find myself like traveling or going around the city in New York with a backpack, I think if I open a device like my phone, the problem is I get hit with Slack messages, text messages, emails, notifications, news, like so many of these things.
Absolutely.
When in fact, I don't want to be distracted. I just want to drop a good note that I thought of that I don't want to lose sight of. And having a journal where you don't have any distractions, there's no notifications, you just turn a clean page, you jot something down. It helps you remember it in the future, but you could also turn to it. You date it, maybe you time it if you need to. That's been awesome for me. it's helped me get stuff out of my head. So it's not sitting in my head. It's on paper, and then I get to forget about it, right? Particularly because some great ideas that I have, let's say even professionally, come when I'm relaxing, right? When I'm away from work. And I think this is true for a lot of people. It's like some of the best ideas happen where you're not thinking so linearly obsessed about the problem. It's in the off time. So when that spontaneity happens, when you have that thought, you need to be able to jot it down without getting distracted. A journal is a great place. So I love pen and paper. I still carry a journal with me all the time. It helps me also detach digitally, right? So that's the other big plus there.
Okay. What is the one of the best, most worthwhile investments you ever made? It could be money, time, energy, so anything which come to your mind.
I think for me, so a couple of years ago, I think this was like 2015, I joined a CrossFit gym. And I know it sounds crazy, like CrossFit, some people love it, some people hate it. For me, I've learned so much about movement, like barbell movement, how to do Olympic weightlifting. It opened up a new way of training my body because I tend to be very like mentally driven, right? Intellectually driven, like reading, writing, coding, building businesses. But I think CrossFit allowed me to exercise the body in ways that I hadn't in the past. Like I would still go to a gym, but I was mostly working with like dumbbells, right? Or the machines. I think with CrossFit, I was able to learn an entirely new technique, very high on technique using barbells. And today I still do it, right? Almost 7-8 years later, still use a lot of barbells, still use a lot of Olympic lifting with good form. I think that was one of the best investments that I made that year, doing that for over 18 months. Getting really good at it. And then now I basically work out most of the time by myself, but I use all of those techniques, right? So investing in a hobby that you may have not invested in the past, particularly if it's different than what you've typically put yourself in, allows you to learn a new skill set that hopefully sticks with you longer term because you enjoy it. And then it becomes part of you, right? So I think for me, physics, that was an incredible investment that I really fondly remember as well.
That sounds amazing. I also really love CrossFit. Unfortunately, here in Antalya, I found only one, and it's pretty far away. So I'm looking for a new possibility to do that as well. In the last 5 years, what new belief, behavior, or habit has most improved your life?
So funny enough, I think growing up in my early 20s, mid 20s, I always thought like you needed life to be in perfect harmony, perfect balance. I think that is a magical thing if you can make that happen. But I think then, reading biographies, learning about people and how they lived, I realized that you can't live in balance. Like it's impossible. It's like an impossible thing to hold yourself to. And it's okay because life can be a series of imbalanced moments where you're like focused on one aspect of your life obsessively. And then as long as like zoomed out, your life is in balance to some extent. So you're spending time with family over your life. You're spending time in business in an intense way. You're spending time physically, like experiencing, like traveling or working out or whatnot. I think that's all okay. I think to say like, I'm going to spend this year or this set of years mostly focused on X, right? While not like necessarily giving up on your responsibilities elsewhere, but knowing that this is really important. This is what it will take to be successful. I think that's okay. I think you have to permit yourself to do that. I think you should also know that unless you actually do that, unless you live in that imbalanced way, you probably won't achieve greatness, right? So this is like most apparent in sports, like a Michael Jordan or a Tom Brady or a Kobe Bryant. They worked out and spent more time dedicated to their craft than anybody, like their contemporaries, their peers, right? And that's what propelled them to be great. Michael Jordan was already gifted, very talented, individually, intrinsically, but he also spent that extra time. That's what led Michael Jordan to be Michael Jordan. There are people that have maybe not Michael Jordan's level of talent, but closer to that talent than you'd expect, that don't really invest in their craft, don't put the extra energy going to practice and watching tape and basically taking good advice. And so they never even get to the realm of being a Michael Jordan, right? Because they haven't put the energy and effort in. That's why for me, it's like, and now I realize that it's like you have to put that extra time, effort, and energy in. So you have to be imbalanced to achieve greatness. I don't think you can without that.
That is a great one, because I was always wondering was trying to find those people who are really living the balance, because I'm hearing it, you need to find a balance, but come on, there is no balance. If you start a startup, what the hell is the balance? You work like 20 hours a day during 1 year at least. So what kind of balance could it be? So yeah, if you will find somebody who found this balance, please let me know. I really would like to talk to this person.
I will, absolutely.
And learn like how. I would like to learn this. Okay, thank you very much for the reply. What advice would you give to the smart, driven college student about to enter the real world, and what advice should they ignore?
So I think one thing that they should ignore is that you need to have a really well-defined plan from day one, right? Know that I think you can't plan yourself out. This is what I'm going to do over the next 10 to 15 years. Unless you want to do like a tried and true career trajectory. That's fine. Like if you want to go into medicine or law, or it's like it's a pretty standard trajectory, right? It's not going to be that different because you have to go through emotions. You have to go to med school. You have to do a residency. You have to do an internship. Like all these things you have to do in order to be a doctor. Same thing with law and a lot of finance as well. But if you're doing more atypical fields, like you want to be entrepreneurial, you want to be a founder, you want to craft your own journey, I think you should first do something you're passionate about as well as gifted in. And that's hard. Like finding your own passion, finding something you're gifted in is going to be hard. But then spend some real time developing that. And you may say, oh, I'm passionate about this, I'm gifted in it, but I still don't really enjoy it. Right? I can't put the crazy amounts of effort in to become great at it because it's just not for me. And that's a great realization. And then kind of move on to the next thing. But experiment like crazy at things that you're passionate about and or have some reasonable talent in, and then see how much you enjoy it. Like really spend some time doing it. Also realize that you can't be great from day one, right? You have to be pretty bad to get to great. You have to be good before you get to great. So you have to be at something for some time before you realize, are you excited by it even after doing it for a year, right? And then worst case, like you still learn something about yourself. You learn something new from doing that, but experiment early on. Don't close doors that you shouldn't close prematurely. And then if you do that in your 20s, your early 20s, mid 20s, by the time you're like later in your 20s or your 30s, you'll have a really good understanding of who you are, what makes you tick, what drives you, what you're passionate about. And then you have a really long professional career to then go and do the thing that you really settle down on.
I wish I heard it when I was like 20 years old.
Because it comes from experience. I didn't necessarily know that when I was 20 either, right? So I wish someone had told me.
Absolutely. What's a bad recommendation you hear in your professional or area of expertise?
I think some of the bad recommendations I hear is basically do what was successful in the past. This is the method to be successful. Go follow it. I mean, sometimes that's good because there's some universal things like saving and investing, right? There's certain things that everyone should do. But I think the conventional advice, like, oh, this thing made this person successful, you go do it too, is typically wrong. So I'll give you an example. I think, and if you look at 2021 or 2022, there were a lot of crypto millionaires, right? And the crypto was super hot. You're like, oh my God, they made a killing. They're doing NFTs. I got to do the same exact thing. You don't. You shouldn't. In fact, if everyone's telling you to do it, you probably shouldn't. Just keep that in mind. It's like sometimes the popular advice is the wrong advice, right? Just because everyone's saying it doesn't mean you should do it. Sometimes the real gems are in doing something that's a little bit atypical. It's also like because people aren't doing it and aren't serious about it, but you think that there's potential, there's more likely to be some greatness there, right? Just if you find yourself like doing something that everyone else is doing, like for example, solving an AI problem that everyone else is solving, you should think of, is that really the right choice? Because popularity doesn't mean it's right necessarily.
That is a great advice. I would love to hear it as well in my 20s. Okay. In the last 5 years, what have you become better at saying no to? Kind of distractions, etc. What approaches helped, and maybe some tips for this?
So I think networking is super important, but I also realize that I think personally in terms of my energy level and things like that, as well as my time, I can't go to too many networking events. Even though it's fun, even though it's valuable, sometimes there are more important, more valuable things to do, especially early stage startup. I think the most important thing you could do is build and invest in your team, right? And also work for your clients, make sure they're happy. Those things always come first before networking, right? Networking I think is important, should still do it, but it's in moderation. I think too often I see early stage founders spending too much time networking, right? Meeting people, mingling, making connections, but not enough time actually doing the hard work of building, getting customer feedback, growing the team, investing in the team, and really just at it, right? So if you find yourself like posturing as an entrepreneur without doing the hard work it takes to actually build product and to sell it, evaluate like how you're spending. But so for me, I had to learn how to say no to all these kind of somewhat distractions, right? Not all of them are distractions, but there are a lot of distractions, particularly in a city like New York City, where all your days could be filled with meetings and happy hours and drinks and whatnot. So I've had to be much more religious in managing my time and my calendar.
It so much resonates with me. One more, and that would be the last question. When you feel overwhelmed or unfocused or lost your focus temporarily, what do you do? Like maybe some questions you ask yourself?
I think for me, I basically ask myself, like, am I happy doing this, right? If the answer is like, most of the time I am, but right now I'm not feeling happy because I'm stressed, I'm overworked, it helps me just rethink the priorities in life, right? Because I don't want to be that person that is professionally successful, but then doesn't have people in their life, right? Family or friend or things like that. So for me, what gives me a really good offset is spending time with people that are not in a professional capacity, right? There are people close to me, friends, family that I get to spend time with and just enjoy the softer sides of life, because that is what you'll remember when you're on your deathbed, right? Like you'll remember building businesses and such too, but the personal connections that you nurture, that you build up over time, those are the ones that are going to really resonate with you. I also love reading biographies, like I said, and I think some of the great biographies involve founders talking about like later in their life when they're 70, 80, what are the things that they regret? What do they wish they had done more of? And often you hear it's like, in some cases, like I do the same thing all over again, but in other cases, like I would do the same thing, but I would spend more time in a certain amount of areas that I didn't, because they get so blindsided with the imbalance that they have in their life that they forget the other sides. So I try to bring that more into perspective as I progress. That helps me get burnt out less than I would otherwise.
I actually recently won TED Talks about the happiness, and the guys was doing the research for over 70 years. I think it was Harvard who did it. Can you imagine? For 70 years, they were measuring every single year. And the point was like to understand what the happiness is. So there was measuring the happiness, like how the people are feeling themselves fulfilled, so on and so forth. And the result is a very interesting one. Actually, the most important part is the human connections. Actually, the interactions. How do we spend life with loved ones, with our friends, family? And that is the most important part. Nothing else. So this is the crucial part. And yes, you're absolutely right. In the deathbed, we will be remembering our kids, our family, spend time together. Of course, we will also remember about some startups and what we did to change this world to the better place. But indeed, the human beings are the most important part. Yeah. Ankur, thank you very much. It was amazing to hear your thoughts. It is amazing how deep you are in the process and technical side of seeing things. So I hope we will meet once again, because I would be very curious to hear how your project is growing, how you become a $1 billion company, because there is all chances of doing this. And it would be very curious to hear your story from that perspective about scaling, about how you hired the teams and so on and so forth. So thank you very much for joining. It was a pleasure talking to you, and good luck in your project.
I absolutely appreciate that. Thanks for having me. It's been a blast being on this, and I look forward to chatting with you again in the future.